Yo, what's up guys? The water tower guide, same as the fire guide of yesterday. Gonna go through all of the stage. What did I use? What units do I recommend? Few MVPs here. I would say that Amber's pretty much MVP in a lot of stages, and there's a few others out there as well. But let's just get started. So floor 10, you have the harmful effects are limited to 1 turn. Big issue you have with this stage is that you're going to do the final boss, the female boss. And the female boss, if it starts off with fire, you can immediately quit because there's no way you're gonna clear it if it keeps the fire or if it keeps the red one. Because then it's going to counter, and that counter does so insane amount of damage that you just simply can't deal with it. So every time that you go in and you see what it does, it keeps red, it's just simple, you can leave. That's the main annoying thing about this whole stage. That's just simply the main annoying stage of this whole thing is like every time that it keeps the red one, you can just simply leave. The stage is a little bit lengthy, it's a little bit annoying. In a lot of those stages, you're going to be using Tyrone is used a lot, Geralt is used a lot, Amber is used a lot. I used a lot of NFL. Situationally, I was also using Theor, I was using Poseidon, I was using Ferret. And I think those were the main core units out there that I was using. Anything else was a little bit more niche, a little bit more specific for certain stages. But Tyrone and Amber and NFL were, I would say, the most core units out there for a lot of those stages. And were the main thing to be clearing all of those things. So let's see what we got in this one. Yep, we got the red one. You gotta quit. Okay, I think this is the run where I succeeded. It kept the green one. I'm not sure if it was possible to clear on the green one. I think if I see my own face over here, I'm hiding it with my cam at the moment as well. But I think the green one is possible. It's not as chill, but as soon as you get it stunned, then it's still kind of fine. But the green one can be a little bit troublesome, but at least it's not like countering you and killing you straight up in one hit kind of style. It is a little bit annoying, it is definitely a little bit tricky, but I'm not 100% sure if I actually cleared this one. Let me actually see if I did clear this one. Because I do think it is possible on green. Green is pretty difficult, and for the people that don't remember what all of these do, red one is countering, green one is absorbing attack bar, and the blue one is anti-crit or something like that. So you barely crit on that one. So with that, yeah, blue one is technically easiest. It also takes the longest because that's where you don't do any damage. But that's where it is easiest to... green is relatively easy to get into the state where it goes for the merge. And when it can't merge with the two others, that's where it gets stunned. And then there's pretty much no passive. And that's where green is pretty much the best. Because the blue one still keeps its passive of the anti-crit. But the green one doesn't actually keep the passive of absorbing attack bar. So at that position, it is actually relatively easy to get things in. Only thing you have to make sure is that it's just a 1 turn slow. So you have to make sure that you're timing the slow correctly and everything like that. So armor breaks, slows, everything. And then the Geralt is very good. Skill 3 is a absorb, or not an absorb, but a 2-0 attack bar. And then the skill 2 is also a slight absorb. So, or is it even a lowering? I'm not even sure. Armor break plus something. But yeah, definitely a very strong unit for this. Definitely a unit you will be using for this quite a bunch. And in here, I was just trying to make it safe, trying to get this in. But it did take me a few tries to get to this point where I could actually clear it. Because simple said is, the moment you get the red one, you can just leave. And I was getting the red one like 6 times out of like 5 or so. And then I messed up the other one. So yeah, that took a little bit of time. Then we have stage 11, which is a Wusa, and it's immune to attack bar increasing, decreasing. A little bit annoying. And I actually did this with a tractor. You kind of need a provoke in here, because if you can't absorb attack bar, or if you can't lower attack bar, you kind of need a provoke. Tractor is a 1-turn provoke, which isn't that great at all. The main provoker that you will use, and I will use later as well, is the Water Indra, and you actually do have quite some stages where you do need the Water Indra. I forgot to mention that one at the start. But the issue for me is it was not max skilled. However, I could get away with it without it being max skilled. So it is not a must to have a max skilled, but you have a 2-turn provoke on it. And 2-turn provoke is just very strong compared to this 1-turn AoE provoke that Tractor is providing. Because, well, the moment you miss it, there's just so many more things going wrong or potentially going wrong. Whereas the cooldown of the Piranha is just a lot better. Plus, I would say that the skills of the unit in the first place aren't too bad. But yeah, if you want to make your life easy for this, having a, or at least I think it's called Piranha, the Indra water, yeah, having that thing max skilled will definitely make this quite a bit easier. It is not necessary though. In the end, I cleared it without actually getting all of those skill ups in. And I used Vigor also from time to time. Is it really a must in this stage? Not really. I was just trying to get the Vigor in to try to have like longer up times of Provoke, and that was the main idea behind it. So we have double Lucian, double OGs. You have to make sure that you pretty much yeah, provoke everything, mainly the Wusa. Wusa is the most important one to be provoked. And the OGs you can just stun. The Lucians actually don't do too much damage. They have like amputation magic for like 3k per card, which is definitely not that devastating. Whereas the Wusa, if the Wusa goes for skill 2, it's like a 30k hit. If he goes for a shield, it's nearly unkillable because you don't have strip. So that's where you want to make sure that these things are always in there. You're always absorbing at the right moment. I missed a pushback over there. If it does get a sleep on your provoke unit and therefore you can't provoke in the next turn, you are probably going to have an issue with that. So in this case, don't have any skills, provoke coming in at the very last moment. Yeah, so that's definitely a difficult stage. It was a little bit of an annoying stage for me because of not having the Indra. It only took me like 2 or 3 tries though. Oh wait, you can't push back. I'm like, why can I not push back? But this is the stage where you can't push back. So of course, that part doesn't work where the Tyrant doesn't push back. But yeah, that's where you need to be lapping fast enough with all of that provoke stuff going on. And then it's doable. Next stage is a Teor with block beneficial effects, which is a very easy stage. Block beneficial effects. You're not using too much beneficial effects. It's just anti like a... If you were to Bolfric this, there's probably a few stages out there that you could Bolfric. But I actually didn't Bolfric a single stage in all of Water. Still was one of the more annoying towers out there, I would say. But in this case, there's just a whole bunch of pushbacks. We're working with the Poseidon, we're working with the Farad. I would say that for the turn orders, you could have your NFL moving first before your Tyrone. That definitely does help out a little bit for your Tyrone to actually be picking up a skill 2 right away. In this case, there's Veromosses there. Just make sure that your Amber is heal blocking everything. You stun everything, and then it's just super easily going from there. Yeah, that's just pretty much all about it. This is one of those stages that they give you for free. You just CC, nothing crazy going on. There's a whole lot of CC units for water, actually. One of the water units that you could use, which I actually didn't use, was the Espresso Cookie water. Because it does do extra damage at the moment things are frozen already. And since you're mostly working with Tyrone and you're probably working with Farad and working with a lot of units like that, it is pretty easy to always have at least one of those things going in. The reason that Poseidon here was pretty useful was Poseidon was also giving silence to the final boss. And for that reason couldn't really do any of its skills. So Poseidon is really a useful one in here. Unless you maybe just provided it in a way where it never took a turn in the first place. And then it would be very easy that way as well. So in the end, like I said, pretty easy stage for a stage 12. And we like to have a few of those easy stages in here. This one had a few of them in there, but a whole lot were a little bit more troublesome. So the next stage is a Pontus, and you can't attack bar increase or decrease. Plus, you have a bunch of annoying units in there as well. And this is definitely where I needed that Indra. So I went on my way, built the Indra. In this case, we also brought in the Sigmaris. Sigmaris is definitely very nice for this because it does have the stun. It actually has pretty good stun rate on the skill 3 and the skill 2. Plus it has damage enemy max HP. So the moment that you put it towards a rage set, it can provide quite a bunch of damage on all of those units. And that's definitely the way to go. If you can't manipulate attack bars, it's mostly what you want to do is go in for the provokes and then try to stun them, deal as much damage as possible. You do have those hackers in there that throw back the damage that is thrown at them for the damage that would be killing them. So it's just make sure that you don't kill them with a heavy hit. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's not that interesting of a unit in these stages. You can definitely deal with it. But absolutely, I would say a Sigmaris from time to time. Sigmaris was used quite a lot in here as well because just good stuns, good freezes, good damage. All in all, pretty good unit. The Byungjuls is a little bit annoying if they were to get turned, so you have to make sure that you're as much stunning the Byungjuls as possible. But having 2 AoE stunners there definitely did help out quite a bunch. But yeah, it could have been tricky if the Byungjuls did take quite some turns. But as you can see, just the Amber kind of shreds through it. The Sigmarus kind of shreds through it. Plus all of these slows and everything going on. Wasn't in the end all too hard. It looked a little bit more daunting for this stage in the first place than it actually was, I would say. But yeah, it was we noticed like these Byungjuls in RTA, they start violent proccing 6 times, or not in RTA, in Siege. They fire proc 6 times and then you're suddenly dead and your whole team is dead and everything is dead. In this case, wasn't really the case. Plus in this position, you could just stun everything. You had to make sure that the provoke was always on. It could be an issue to where the provoke was thrown back, as in what happened just now. So I was like, oh, is this gonna go wrong? But in this position, you just have to make sure that you kill everything as much as possible. And I think I got an additional turn here, which was pretty lucky. Without that additional turn, I would have lost. But it's also, if I didn't get that provoke thrown back, then I would have instantly won as well. So that's just kind of the thing for this stage. You have to be kind of lucky that your Amber can kill stuff enough. Without an Amber, this is really one of those stages. You have to kill it fast and then it gets super easy on the Pontus. But if you don't have that, then this stage is super annoying, super difficult. And then it just takes quite a bit of time, because every time the third skill up, the Holy Grail, and then you can't do any damage. It doesn't take a turn that fast, and then it just takes freaking forever. Okay, then we have another one, which is once again attack bar increasing and decreasing, not in effect. But the units next to it, not that dangerous. So using the exact same team, first stage does have the Angelas, which provide a little bit of damage the moment that they actually place a shield. But as long as the shield is not there, they don't do as much damage. So try to just kill them as fast as possible. You also have the heals of NFL, so that part just make it pretty easy, not too much going on. In this stage, you do have the Manons, and the Manons you definitely want to get down as fast as possible, preferably stunned. In this case, I think I started off my rotation wrong and I didn't start off with a stun because I didn't have the cooldowns. But you have the NFL heals, and the NFL heals are really strong. That's really like a lifesaver in a lot of those stages, where NFL heals just make it where you can get away with a lot of nonsense. And NFL just, if you have high enough HP on it, good enough attack on it, NFL is really one of those super strong units in here. Might be one of those MVPs as well. I would say Tyrone and Amber and NFL, the 3 of them together. So then we get to this stage. You do have to land most of the things. I did miss on the right one over here, so it instantly killed my Sigmarus, which was definitely like, okay, if I landed either a provoke or a stun, because both of the stuns missed and the provoke missed. So that was a little bit unlucky on this stage. But in the end, it was still kind of doable as long as I always kept provoking the middle boss. And my Amber was getting off enough turns to actually get anywhere. Also, your Indra will get back to life the moment it dies on the first death. So that definitely does help out quite a bunch. And then from here, it was just an easy clear in the end. So even with my Sigmarus dying, which was definitely not great for this stage, it was still possible. And from there, it took a whole lot longer to actually clear this stage. But yeah, in the end, a clear is a clear. Then the next stage is a Seimei, and you have silence at the start of the battle, plus attack bar increasing effect on the moment of hitting. I hate that second one the most. Okay, after time-lapsing a whole bunch of times and just seeing like how I did this, this was a pretty annoying stage. You start off with a bunch of chows. I would actually say that this was probably one of the most annoying stages of this, except for the 20. The 20 was pretty annoying as well. Well, unless you exactly know what the 20 does then, but I'll talk about it later. But this was, I would say, the most annoying stage, which took me the longest time. I took like an hour for clearing this stage. We have the Tetron here because of that silence, and then I just added in 3 pushback units plus an Amber. I would say that especially the Theor does a really good job on the skill 2, does a lot of damage. Verrat is just good damage in general. Poseidon is decent in damage, but also mainly the pushback. So in this case, it's just a lot of pushbacks. There's no NFL, there is no, what's it called? There's no armor breaks, and it's just all about the Amber actually providing the damage, because this boss is really annoying with the attack bar push. Plus, it's once again Gapsos. So we have seen Gapsos in a bunch of stages. Gapsos over here, Gapsos are super annoying. So yeah, this stage is relatively easy. None of these units really do too much damage, even if they get a turn. It takes a little bit of time to actually get rid of them, but it's not really an issue. You don't have too many turns, but this one is definitely not too much of a struggle. So the moment that those you clear those, they come back, they do a little bit of nothing. Tetra's more than enough healing by itself. I would recommend to put all of your units on Violent, except the Tetra, because the Tetra on Violent is pretty bad. Because the moment that your Tetra is on Violent, you actually gives Gapsos extra attack bar. And you don't want that. That's just a simple thing. Because every time you heal, there's extra bar for Gapsos, and you don't want that. So yeah, we have double Gapso, double Kinky. Or the double Kiki. Not Kinky. Double Kiki. I wish it was Kinky. It was a lot easier, probably. At least you could stun those a little bit more. Well, it would have been dangerous as well. But yeah, Gapso. This stage was super dangerous. All the time you have to check, like, okay, what has good enough attack bar? What should I hit? Most of the time you want to be hitting the Seimei, because the Seimei itself doesn't do too much of dangerous skills. You have to be careful that the moment you kill one of the Gapsos, she's going to bring back a Gapso, most likely. And then with that Gapso, she's going to be doing a shit ton of damage as well, because the Gapsos hit for about 26k here or so. And that was after damage reduction from Dark. This fight makes it look like it was not that dangerous. I was very lucky there that the Gapso didn't go for the skill, otherwise I would have lost the unit straight away. And I got a whole bunch of procs over here. This was literally proc city. But this was the only way that I could clear this. I tried a few other teams that I saw from other people with Tyrone in there and that kind of stuff. But I noticed that the moment I switched to this team, I got twice pretty close right away for clearing this boss. So it definitely will take you a few tries. But this was definitely the team. The moment I switched to this team, it looked a lot safer, because there's just so much stunts going on, double turn stunts. There's just a lot of stuff going on, and for that reason you can get away with a lot more stuff. And the moment that you kill the most right Kiki, which I actually should have done earlier, the Seimei will always go for reviving them over the most left Kiki, not the most right. The most left Kiki, the moment you kill the most left Kiki, the Seimei will always revive the most left Kiki. And with that, it will also always go for a skill without a passive. And this doesn't do anything. The moment that the Kiki isn't there, it doesn't do anything. So the Gapso did manage to take a turn and managed to take out a unit. And from here, it was just trying to clear it. The only question was like, okay, we have the turns. Do we do enough damage to clear this thing in 140 turns right now? Well, in the end, you see the turns going down. But the moment that you're playing this is one-time speed, you're like, am I actually going to be clearing this? Because I already played this stage for like an hour and a half by this time. You're like, no way, I'm actually going to lose to a turnout. And it got relatively close, but in the end, it did manage. Then the next stage is 200 crit damage, immune to continuous damage, and a Zinezak. So once again, a stage you can't really stun that much because of Zinezak, so you have to go for the provokes. And with that, we brought back the Sigmarus. I brought back the Vigor. I kind of like the Vigor for the speed buff. Not necessarily for the anti-crit, it's mainly for the speed buff. And with that, you just get more lapping in for your provoking unit. And yeah, that just helps out quite. And then we had this stage. This stage was a little bit more tricky because you had to stun the Minotaurs right from the get-go. If you didn't properly stun the Minotaurs, you would get issues later. So that's also why I'm saving the Sigmarus skill 3. And yeah, at some point I was like, okay, the Sigmarus skill 3 actually does an insane amount of damage. And that's mainly why you want to have this good rage set, high crit rate, high accuracy on this Sigmarus, because that's definitely the way to go. So then for the boss, it's also just trying to stun it, absorb the attack bar as much as possible. I didn't notice that I actually should have had NFL move in front of the Tyrone, so you can actually go for a pushback. At least, was that supposed to be the play? I think that was supposed to be the play rather than stunning it right away. But yeah, you just work with a whole bunch of provokes. Try to get still as much damage in from the Sigmarus as possible. And even though that it looked like a very wonky fight, it still works out. Just armor break it and Sigmarus, and this is actually the Sigmarus that I used. I wasn't sure if I was showcasing it. But yeah, the Sigmarus on fire plus blade, and a pretty solid set, I would say. And once again, one of the more annoying stages, a Manon, and Manon without attack bar increasing or decreasing and cooldown stuff. So you have to fight a Manon full on, yay, great. In this case, I did make my Jennifer, and she is a great stunner, has Oblivion, and the main thing is you want to get stuns in because next to the Manon, there's Riley's and there's Mayo Wang. So for that reason, I felt like this, I tried a few different teams that I saw from other people, but the Water Yen was definitely something that the moment I picked it up, I actually started winning with pretty fast because her skill 3 is like 70% chance to stun on a 3 times hit. So that's a very high chance of stunning also water units. And that was the main thing that I was aiming for. Of course, once again, the Indra. So I definitely would say, yeah, you can't really go without the Indra. I think the Indra, maybe even more than Amber, would be hard locking you out of certain stages. Because without, I have so many stages that I would be like, yeah, I have no clue how you would do this without an Indra in the first place. And once again, the Vigor, most of the time when I use the Indra, I also use the Vigor. It's not really that much of a must to use the Vigor, but it's one of those units because I don't have those skill ups, which I felt like, okay, that was kind of a thing that I would need. So if you don't, or if you do have it skilled up, I would say that it's maybe not that much of a necessity. So yeah, this is where we have like, okay, we get a bunch of good stuns in. We try to get as much damage in into the other units. You hope not to get stunned by the Manon, which is definitely very likely to be happening. So you don't want to be throwing at other units if there is a chance for Manon stunning you and you don't do anything useful with that at that moment. We also have the cleanse block in there, so that definitely helps out a little bit as well. But yeah, as you can see, definitely not an easy stage. Definitely the stuns of the Yen were really good, so that's where you just can start having your Amber Ink, and also one of the stages without Amber, absolutely impossible. But yeah, that's where you just start clearing all of that, getting all of those skills in, and this is looking definitely like a victory. However, there's one catch. I should have actually added some additional damage artifacts while using this team, because this fight is on 64 times speed right now, and it's still slow as fuck. Wait, is this? Yeah, this is 64 times speed as well. And I'm like, yo, am I actually going to be taking enough turns to actually clear this fucking thing? But yeah, I actually did manage. Okay, this thing goes through it really fast. But yeah, that was kind of a terrible stage. And if you add, I had a little bit of additional damage on the Yen, and there was some crit rate, crit damage on the Vigor. But if you just put additional damage by speed and HP, because in the end, the Manon always will have defense buff, it is kind of the way to clear it, right? So next stage is a Chandra, which starts off with immunity of 1 turn and unrecoverable. So this is one of those stages you have to use Ezio. All of the other units you've already seen, but Ezio is of course for that strip. The threat state helps out a little bit as well, especially since you have unrecoverable, so you can kind of decide where the enemy should hit. However, there's one big issue. Everything starts with immunity, and if you miss on the unit on the right, on the Pater, you can leave. Great design once again. So yeah, this is the run where I actually succeeded. First one is, oh, this is not exactly the run where I first succeeded. If it's just like, it's a good thing that it doesn't cost any energy. That's very good. But yeah, first few waves, definitely not that, or at least the first one is definitely not that difficult. You just clear it. It's nothing special. You have to make sure that they don't do too much damage to you, but you have a little bit of recovery. This one is a little bit annoying because you have those Thomases in there that are pretty fast and hard to stun, but you will manage that as well. But yeah, you can't do any healing, so it's a little bit more tricky for that. And then at some point you clear all of those. So we get to the boss, we get a full-on strip and we get a full-on provoke. So that is definitely good. I could go for the cleanse, did get the cleanse in the end. And that's just where you start AoE CCing everything. You start killing it with the Amber. And then at some point, the moment you kill everything with Amber, make sure that you're still not stunning anything. Because the moment you do stun something, the Pater will actually cleanse that shit off. Plus you have the Indra, which will actually go for a second life. So in this case, once again, slow match. 64 times, and yeah, this, well, not as bad as the Manon, but pretty bad still. I hated this tower. Then the next stage is a Julian, block beneficial effect, and no attack by increasing or decreasing. There's one little catch to this stage, and that's this part of the stage. I used a Liam and I used a Sigmarus. Liam is for the skill 2 to add in a little bit extra damage. I did actually notice that the Jemias have terrible AI for using their S3 if there's nothing on cooldown. So they're not using their S3 AI for cleansing anything. They're only using their S3 AI if there's something from cooldown to go. So for that reason, that part is a little bit easier. But you have to try to get your runes to a position where if your Sigmara skill 3, your Liam skill 3, or no wait, your Liam skill 2, Sigmara skill 3, and then your Amber skill 2 does about enough damage where the dots will pick up that the two side things actually clear. Because if that's not the case, then of course you get an insane amount of damage from those things that the moment that they reflect. And then this boss is just pretty simple by itself. I clicked a skill over there. I shouldn't have used the Liam skill. But yeah, this boss by itself, it doesn't really do too much. This boss is definitely a lot more free. It's just the first wave that is a little bit annoying. But the moment that you clear the first wave, you're pretty much good to go for this stage itself. So at least one of those stages that's a little bit more free in this freaking dungeon. Because this dungeon definitely took a little bit more time than the fire so far. So when we clear that, it is done. Then we have the final boss once again. We have silence at the start and we also have additional turns. The additional turns actually are more of a blessing than a curse in the end if you do know how this one works. But this one is pretty annoying. The side units are not that crazy. First wave takes a little bit of time. Second wave, these units don't do too much. Like the light Skogels, even in this stage, literally do nothing. They hit for like 500 or something, or like 2k or so. It's really weak, but it is a little bit annoying. And the moment we get to the boss, I can show you why it is annoying. So we're at the boss, we have all of our units. We have a Geralt for pushbacks, we have the Vigor for speed buffs, all of the kind of good stuff. So in this case, there's a reflect on the boss. But the reflect is normally 17k for a reflect. 15 or 8 and 15k. My Tyrant just died. I'm like, wait, what the hell did so much damage? But the thing is, the reflect is insanely high of this boss the moment that the defense between your units and the boss has a bigger gap. And I will show you a few more examples of that. So yeah, once again at the boss fight, you can see that there's already a lot of damage coming in. And yeah, they can also fire proc, plus they give a defense buff. The moment that defense buff is there and you start hitting that mid thing, that's where you get a lot of damage in, 29k dead. So yeah, we're at the final boss at this position with the right team, but also the Water Bayek, which is probably one of the better options for this team. So you're like, okay, should be looking all good. We armor break it so we don't get that much reflect damage. In this case, you also have to push back in this moment, was resisted. Then the boss goes, pretty much kills your whole team right away. Yeah, that's not really helping that much. So the moment that, let me show you how much damage, defense buff, defense break, how much damage is the reflect? 55k. That's how much damage you're looking at for reflects. So once again at the boss, all of the right units, all of the right everything. But there is an issue. The Geralt S2 actually armor breaks with a low chance. If it doesn't armor break at all, Geralt just dies in one hit. Great stage, right? Fucking hell, man. This took me so long. So yeah, once again, keep in mind for this stage, the moment you rune it up, you do want to rune everything up with either Despair or Swift, because there's Bolt in Vio on this stage. This stage can definitely be quite annoying. The early stage, this one, can be annoying. You can have some procs here, you can lose here, but the good thing is the annoying part is in the first wave and not in the second wave, because the second wave is relatively easy. Those units don't do all too much, because you have like the light Skogels, they really don't do too much. But these units, the moment that they get attack buff from the I don't even know what they're called, like the Hammer Girls Wind, it can do quite some damage. The moment they start proccing and everything, it can definitely be quite some damage. You do have the issue with your Tyrone that you kind of want your Tyrone to S3, S2 in the first turn, but that's a 22% chance that you get that. And you could maybe like bounce around a few times to actually try to get that, but yeah, that's kind of up to you. If the thing starts proccing the moment that there's armor breaks, you're dead. So that's definitely you dead. So in that case, this wave is already pretty annoying. But at least the wave after this wave doesn't do anything. I think it's called Celias with an S or something like that. They are a little bit scary. They can be annoying. They can do some damage, but the other units absolutely don't do anything. So now we get to the boss stage. We didn't get a freeze off, so I had to go for a hit where I actually did get the freeze. In this case, I did get an armor break pretty early on, and that helped out a lot. Now you have to go for that pushback. Also did land. I get a proc, and I also were able to push back that thing on the right. So that's kind of how you have to deal with it, which is definitely not a very nice sequence. This is not a very nice boss. Because now in this position, if you hit something, the reflex don't do too much because you have Death Break on the boss. I was actually ruining a lot of stuff with everything like super high defense, but that in the end didn't really matter. I did get a defense buff just now, so the only strip I have is a Tetra skill 1. If Tetra skill 1 lands right now, I have a chance. If I go for skill 1 on this, still a decent amount of hit. Tetra skill 1 actually lands. So, finally. But yeah, there's built-in Vio, so the built-in Vio does help you out a bit. You definitely have to go for a lot of swift runes. That's definitely the way to go, I would say. And then from there, it's relatively easy. The Bayek is insanely good at doing this. Another option instead of the water Bayek would also be a Skogul that is water. It kind of has like a similar kit with a lot of pushbacks in every skill. Armor breaks, attack bar to 0. So I definitely do think that that unit would be interesting as well if this one didn't work out because mine isn't skilled up. Once again, units I don't have fully skilled up. But yeah, in the end, it definitely did work out. But this tower in the end took me about 7 hours to clear. So this whole video is like a time lapse of 7 hours work. Whereas the fire one was a good 3 hours or so. So that's definitely the difference for me that the water dungeon, for me specifically, was a lot more difficult. But that is all there is to it. Guys, once again, thanks for watching these. There's going to be the wind one probably tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed those. Thanks for watching. I'll see you as always in the next one. Like this video if you haven't yet, and subscribe to the channel. See ya! Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the dungeon guide archive and the video guide archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.